People see us everywhere. They think you really care. But myself I can't deceive. I know it's only make-believe.
Hello, and welcome, as always, to an episode of Will You Accept This Prose? I am your author, Max Churchwell.
And I'm your analyzer, Kinsey Brinton.
And you know what?
What?
We haven't been... I'm doing a bit. We haven't been doing enough analysis on this podcast, and I'm upset. I'm upset that there's no producer influence. I'm upset that the editors aren't fucking with... I'm not a part of this, man. And this is where you tell me I shouldn't be yelling.
Oh, Max, you shouldn't be yelling.
Oh, we're gonna whisper. We're gonna whisper now. There's not enough analysis on this analysis podcast.
As the analyzer, I am feeling a little attacked right now.
Well, no, because it's my responsibility too. The real issue with it is not that there's not... It's not our fault for not analyzing enough of producer or editor influence. It's the producers and editors' fault for not having to influence things. It's the contestants' fault.
It's the contestants' fault for being whack enough. They don't need producer influence.
Yeah, they are either whack enough, good enough, or just neutral enough to be respectively showed as they are, showed as they are, or not shown at all.
Yeah, I feel like from what the teasers have been showing, I feel like there's going to be plenty of analysis later on. But right now, it really is just, we're watching them.
Yeah. And I mean, I think, like, we'll do our best to do some heavy lifting on this, listener. The most that we can analyze is probably going to be from those teasers.
Right.
The unfortunate thing about it is, like, even the teasers that, like, there was a specific thing early on. It was something JJ was saying, which there's a whole deal with JJ we'll get into.
Oh.
There was something that he was saying about, I can't remember what situation, but they defo were taking, like, the soundbite of him saying that in a talking head out of context and applying it to some other footage.
I'd love to see 4 or 5 guys get whacked tonight.
It is exactly that.
We got that in a previous episode. We've gotten that several times this episode. Mm-hmm. And so it seems like it is something that's gonna be a big thing.
Yeah. And in fact, it's ultimately nothing. But we'll get to that. Let's take it from the beginning. And this episode opens...
Yeah.
With,
previously on...
Yeah, pretty much. If you will recall, in the previous episode, Koopa got sent home and was getting very agitated outside. And he was, like, pretty aggressive. I will say, though, quick correction on ourselves in the last episode. Mm-hmm. We had talked about it seemed like he was putting hands on, I mean, not like throwing blows, but putting hands on a producer. That was not the case.
Right.
As we saw in the recap here. But he was, like, right up in this producer's face.
Yeah, and I think it was just, like, from what Kaitlyn said, because she said something like, oh, not if he's going to put hands on.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, did he must have touched a producer.
It was more preemptive, it seems.
Yeah.
Her taking action, which was rad as hell.
Yeah.
Rad as hell. Let's talk about the actions she took, shall we?
Right. So Kaitlyn goes outside to where Koopa is talking to a producer, and it's like he sees her and immediately is like, oh, God.
Yeah.
Like, he knows he's messed up.
The teacher has noticed him passing notes.
Yeah. And she comes out and she just says, you know, I heard you yelling out here. I want to know what's going on.
And he tried to pull back. Yeah. Like, he calmed down real fucking quick.
Right. She was like, I was doing an interview in there and I heard you yelling, and so I had to come see what was going on. And he just said, you know, he wasn't ready to go home. He didn't want to go home. He came here to find love and all of this. And Kaitlyn was just like, you have to understand it's not going to change. I'm not going to change my mind.
Nothing is going to change things right now. Yeah.
Yeah.
I also love, she did not let him gain any ground by so quickly quieting down, like regaining control of himself. It meant nothing. She was like, no, don't put a different face on now.
Yeah.
And good on her. Man, this episode especially, like, I love Kaitlyn now.
Kaitlyn's great.
She's very much on Kaitlyn's side.
Yeah, she just doesn't beat around the bush. She just...
She is straight to the point, no faking.
Yeah.
Cooking shitty dudes like a pound of bacon.
I would love to see how she was in her season of The Bachelor that she was on. Because, I mean, we can talk a little bit about producer stuff here. What we were shown in the first episode of her was just party girl Kaitlyn.
Yeah, we talked about this a little bit earlier on, but we didn't have enough to confirm that there was more to her than that. Now we know for sure. Like, I don't think she's done anything that seemed the same level of irreverent, like, you know... Obviously, she's still, like, she wants everything to be fun, but, like, that's the point.
Yeah.
But there isn't this, like, no matter what, it's all a big joke, whatever. She is very serious and very genuine about this process.
Yeah. Like, the biggest thing in that first episode was, oh, she tells jokes all the time. She's not told, like, a single out-of-place random joke since the first episode.
Yeah. And she hasn't, it also made it seem like all her humor was sexual. She hasn't really done much, which is ironic to say for this episode, as you will find out later, listener, if you have not been able to watch this episode. It's ironic, but, like, she has not made any sexual jokes that I can remember.
Yeah, I can't think of any. But let's get into it.
Granted, she hasn't had the opportunity, well... in front of a crowd, she has not had the opportunity to take her bikini bottom off yet. I assume that's not going to be a recurring thing for her.
Yeah.
But who knows? I mean, more power to her.
Yeah,
like,
if she wants to, fine.
Nudity's great, man. Chase your fucking bliss. Like, get after your own happiness there, Kaitlyn.
Yeah. So, she's talking to Koopa. She, tells him how it's gonna be. It ain't gonna change. And she goes back inside. And... Koopa then, he's very obviously drunk.
So drunk. Like, he is clearly holding what I assume was straight whiskey. And just, especially when because if you haven't guessed the intro bit, he does, like, after she sort of gets onto him a little bit, he does do the whole, like, we're gonna whisper now.
Yeah.
Like, makes a big thing out of that bit. And that is when it becomes so insanely clear that he's drunk as hell.
And then, like, as she's walking in, he's saying stuff like, oh, she came out and said, oh, I hate you. Oh, you have chlamydia. It's like, where's that come from?
Where did that come from, Koopa?
And then he says, I've been dissed by uglier girls.
By uglier girls. And why the fuck, like... It's specifically the word uglier. Like, if he had said, no, girls that look worse is still bad, too. Like,
there's just no way to make that sentiment better.
Yeah. Like, I mean, if he had said something about, like, it sucks to be dissed by such a beautiful woman or something like that, that's one thing. But because he made it this comparison, specifically with, like, women that looked worse, there's still no coming back. Like, even if he had said exactly that, I've been dissed by girls that looked worse.
Still so bad.
Still bad.
And it really sucks because what we saw of Koopa before all this happened, we liked. He seemed like a good guy.
Seemed super chill, seemed like a cool guy, good dude, but...
Man, there's just a lot of stinkers this season.
A fair amount of stinkers. A good hearty handful of stinkers. It's where this season is the fucking thing. I'm gonna, if nobody's as into cereal as I am, I'm gonna chop and screw the Raisin Bran thing. This is Stinker Bran, now with 2 scoops of stinkers.
Yeah. So, Kaitlyn goes back inside. Koopa goes home. Kaitlyn goes inside and she brings the guys together. And says, I had to send Koopa home. And then something she said, because if you'll remember, one of the reasons why Koopa and Kaitlyn got into that conversation was that Koopa didn't come talk to her during the boxing date. And we find out that it's because Koopa was uncomfortable with the boxing date. And so Kaitlyn says, hey, if y'all guys are uncomfortable with something, come talk to me, please.
Yeah.
Come talk to me. We can figure it out. I don't want you to have to do something you don't want to do.
Which is great, because I feel like the point of a fair amount of group dates in the Bachelor family of products, the point of them does seem to be like debasing yourself in front of a crowd.
How uncomfortable can we make these guys?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's the same with the women.
Well, yeah.
But still.
And so then we get right into the rose ceremony. And they had to cancel the rest of the cocktail party.
I was going to say, night was cut short.
Yeah. So in order that we saw, the people who get the roses were Jared, Ben Higgins, Sean, Jonathan, Tanner, Chris Cupcake, Ryan, Justin, Ian, Joshua, Joe, Corey S., and, surprisingly, Tony.
Against all odds, Tony. Now, we've mentioned before, but again, throughout this rose ceremony, Kaitlyn was really looking down before she said any names. And the thought that this gave me was, I think, we've talked before about it seems like, the boutonnieres are put on with magnets. I think the names are written on those magnets. And here's one thing about the producers we can question. I guess it's really producers or editors. It's who determines the order. Because I think Kaitlyn decides who she wants to keep. Mm-hmm. And based on what the producers know is going on in the house, determines what order she gives out the roses. But it is also fully possible they go out in whatever hickledy-pickledy order, and then the editors are like, well, but there was beef between so-and-so and so-and-so.
Well, if you remember, we talked about this in Jason Mesnick's season.
Of how it always ends up being.
Remember, we saw someone who was supposed to have gotten the final rose. As they're walking back to their spot, we saw another rose on the table.
Oh,
so we were like, did so-and-so actually get the rose then?
With this coming after, the, names written thing could be new. Because I'll say this, with the boutonnieres, there's a great opportunity for where to hide a name tag. With roses, less
Not
so.
Not so much. It may just be different situations for, the two different formats. Like, perhaps with The Bachelor, they rely on editors putting it the way they want. But with The Bachelorette, they can, on the boutonnieres, provide an order for The Bachelorette. Although one would think The Bachelorette would have a bit of a better sort of poker face to not make it seem as if she's reading a name when she calls one. Yeah, she's so obvious about it. It's very funny.
Very easy tell. If you ever meet Kaitlyn, remind me of the last name, how to pronounce it? Bristowe. If you ever meet Kaitlyn Bristowe, immediately challenge her to a poker game. Immediately.
You will win.
You will win.
And I mean, I even talked about last episode. She has a very obvious tell.
Yeah, a very obvious tell, for sure.
So when there are two guys who go home, I do not remember their names. Well, one of them was Corey. I do not remember the other one. There are two Coreys.
Yeah, I was going to say it was one of the Coreys, and then the fact that we can't remember the other dude's name, that tells you enough.
Yeah. Kaitlyn seemed genuinely upset that they were going home.
For sure. For sure. Like, she was already starting to kind of cry as they were walking out.
Yeah.
I did love, though, she said, I'm sorry to the second man who walked out, which I think was the Corey.
I think it was Corey.
She said, I'm sorry to him, and he was, he was like, it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he was very understanding, which I appreciate.
Yeah. And one thing she says about him, I remember, is, she talks about their connection, and she really liked him, but she felt like he needed to be home with his daughter.
Which is interesting to me.
Yeah.
And I'm so sorry, Kaitlyn Bristowe, if you're listening. I know you're not. But if against all odds somebody sends this to you, welcome. But was that a cop-out? Was that a cop-out, Kaitlyn? Was that your way of saying, like, no, he's a good guy, but just
I don't know. The way she just genuinely seemed very upset that he was leaving doesn't seem like it was a cop-out to me.
That's true. She does seem very genuine. It's just the element of, like, when she said that, I did not even remember that he had a child. And I don't know if that's because we haven't seen enough of him.
Well, it was probably because we haven't seen enough of him.
Okay.
And, yeah, I feel like we just weren't shown anything about that.
That's true. I feel like we probably saw the first night discussion where he was like, and also I have a kid.
Yeah, there might have been, like, one mention, but... Okay, we gotta get into this episode.
Fuck, yes, there's so much to talk about.
Yeah, so we get a teaser. There's gonna be a sumo date this episode. Tony, apparently he's gonna go on something.
He's gonna have some issues.
Yeah.
He's gonna have some issues this episode.
One. Then there's gonna be a sex ed date.
Which is heinous.
It's awful.
Terrible, terrible idea, but go on.
And then we get a shot of Clint and JJ sitting on a couch. And
JJ has his whole dick out.
Yeah, they have to have a censor bar over JJ. I think it's like his trunks.
He was wearing these very short, like bike short style swim trunks.
Yeah.
And was man-spreading because of course he did. It's JJ. And his whole bits were just hanging out.
Yeah. He and Clint are sitting very close on this couch.
Quite close. And I will point out, Clint's arm was, like, going over JJ's thigh. I mean, like, he was essentially just resting his arm on the thigh. Like, the inside of his arm was pointed up. Mm-hmm. So he wasn't, like, reaching over for nothing.
Yeah, no.
But...
We will talk much more about that later.
Oh, there's so much to be discussed later.
Okay, so... we get some shots of the men sleeping, and then outside we see two very, very large men in kimonos coming up on bikes.
On bikes?
On bikes!
It's surprising to me, and apparently it might be a thing.
So, we find out they are two sumo wrestlers named Byamba and Yama.
Both wonderful,
they
wonderful
are
men.
Wonderful. Yama was actually, he's 600 pounds, the heaviest Japanese man alive.
Well, didn't it say actually in history? I can't remember, but he's a big, big boy.
He's a big, big boy. And so they are going to teach them how to sumo, and they're going to have like a little sumo competition, and they have like a practice thing outside where all the men on this group date go up against a sumo guy. But
they're both like champions. They are both sumo champions, multiple time sumo champions. But the important thing to me to mention here, because of the way you said it, Kenzie, these men were not told this is a practice thing. It was, let's go out to the driveway and do this.
Yeah.
It's later revealed there is something to follow.
Yeah, and so they do have to wear the, like, traditional amawashi.
Well, or possibly mawashi. The captioners did a bad job, and we didn't take the time to Google because we're irresponsible.
We're irresponsible podcasters.
Irresponsible journalists.
And so, they have to wear... I mean, you guys know what sumo wear looks like.
I'm not going to call it a diaper because that's what literally everyone in the Bachelor Mansion calls it in this, and that seems disrespectful.
Yeah. Seems like... And especially since they know what it's called. They hear it multiple times. Kaitlyn called it correctly.
Chris fucking Harrison told them what it's called. If Chris Harrison told me the sky was called the Big Blue, That's what I'm calling it now.
The sky is the big blue.
Wow, look at all the stars in the big blue tonight. I can't wait to big blue dive. If we pull this off, we are gonna big blue rocket right to the top.
Any more sky puns you would like to make before we move on?
Give me 1 second.
Okay.
No, that one's not good enough. No, I can't get there. I can't bridge the gap. I gotta submit. I gotta pass on this one because I can't get there.
So, they're wearing these things and they have to blur out, like, their whole ass.
Their whole ass. And it does get worse.
It gets worse because Joe. Something happened with Joe's.
Wait, Joe, if you don't remember, wonderful man, one of the Southern gentlemen. Great dude. So, seemingly great dude.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, he does run into an issue with the Amawashi/Mawashi, which is he has a nut come out. He has a nut come out. One nut comes out, and Joe, like, people are referencing it, and Joe does nothing about it.
He does absolutely nothing about it.
Which, in fairness, like, there's almost no way he could not tell that it was out. But, like, at the same time, it's welcome to this date that involves putting your hands on other people a whole lot. Do you want to readjust your bare bits? No, I don't think I will, said Joe.
Goodness. So, yeah, each of the men get a turn up against Biamba. And of course, Biamba.
No, it was Yama. They went up against Yama, the bigger gentleman.
Are you sure?
I believe so, because I don't think Biamba fought until the second part of the date. Because I was looking for Biamba every time. I believe Biamba was the one saying go. It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
You paused too long. We're not going to take the time to figure this out.
I was trying to remember. I really couldn't.
I'm almost certain it's Yama, but it doesn't matter.
It just doesn't matter.
It's Yama. Keep talking. God, it doesn't matter.
Okay, so Tony seems very into this.
He is fucking, and people are talking about, you get a couple talking heads where people are like, Tony's really intense, whatever, and Tony seems so, like, dialed in.
He seems so giddy. Like, he seems so excited to get to do this.
And he talks mad shit about, this dude doesn't know what's coming.
Yeah, which is wild. He's a 4-time world champion sumo wrestler.
Or possibly a winner of several sumo championships, which is what Yama's title is, but go on. Most likely a several-time sumo champion in several championships, but go on.
Wow.
Dog, I will pause the recording and bring it back up, because I swear to God it was Yama.
It doesn't matter. Okay, so Tony does last the longest.
He does. And he is one of the... I think of what we saw, he is the only man to not be thrown out of the ring.
Yeah.
What sucks... Because here's the thing. What I learned about sumo is that there's a lot of, like, quick pushing that goes on. Mm-hmm. Because when Biamba and Yama demonstrate, like, there's some really quick pushes to the chest that they do.
Right.
Tony comes in and... I would argue very wisely does all pushes. Because every other dude tried to get right up on, like, shoulder into Yama. Like, they were treating it, and they talk a lot about it's so similar to football, whatever. Tony's the only one who comes in and does all pushes, and Yama, like, starts giggling at it, which I get.
Well, I thought Tony was giggling.
Really? I thought it was Yama. I feel like it was... Tony seemed way... Yama. Tony seemed way too intense to be giggling at himself. But, like, it's getting a lot of laughs that he's doing so many pushes. But, like, also, nobody else fucking moved Yama. He moved just enough to throw them out of the ring.
It seemed like, from what I said, Tony, it looked like he was smiling the whole time. He seemed like he was having fun.
It is possible, because he did seem surprisingly horny for battle.
Yeah.
But he did a bunch of pushes. from what we saw, he was the one who came closest to getting the professional sumo wrestler out of the ring. But, and this is weird, he pushed too hard one time and he sort of lost his footing. He fell to his knees and that was the end of the match. So that's something I didn't know. I guess falling down counts as losing the match, which is intriguing to me. Had no idea. Because,
well, it seems like it's just like two immovable forces colliding.
That's a good point. And in fairness, we didn't see anybody lose a match that was not being thrown out of the ring.
Yeah.
So
Tony falls to his knees. He gets up and immediately gets his stuff and starts walking back in the house.
Yeah.
And Kaitlyn, she sees that he's upset and goes in after him. And Tony is not having it. She's like calling his name like, hey, Tony, what's wrong? He's just straight up ignoring her.
He ignores her for a good hot minute.
And then finally he turns around and just goes on this rant about how, this kind of thing is like, this isn't how you find love, and why can't we do something more peaceful? Why does it have to be such about aggression and all this stuff?
The thing is, it was a lot about this isn't me, this isn't what I'm about, but we saw like 2 full minutes of him saying all this, like, this guy doesn't know who he's fucking with, whatever, like very aggressive shit talking from Tony and Talking Heads, and now he's like, this isn't me. So it's weird.
Yeah.
Because
Which one is it, Tony?
In fact, the truth is he's a sore loser, but he doesn't want to admit it. And I fully understand that. I have been there, but at the same time, he stepped into that I'm not going to admit I'm a sore loser hole, and then he had a bulldozer come by.
He had a drill that was just drilling down into the center.
Yup.
Yeah, he was digging himself so deep.
He was on a journey to the center of the earth, is the thing about his response to every question that Kaitlyn posed.
Yeah, and then JJ, because he's JJ, decides he needs to insert himself in this situation.
JJ's the dude who was like, I don't see any other dudes here that are husband material.
Yeah.
Blah, 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 blah.
So he goes up and is like, Tony, you're making her upset. And as soon as he walks up, Kaitlyn's like, no.
Yeah. And can I say, like, Tony reacts far, far worse to this than he should have. But, like, JJ did seem to come in kind of charged. Like, I think JJ has sort of established a sort of motif.
Anti-Tony stance.
Not even just that. Like, I think JJ has established his, like, straight to the point, no faking in the sense of being an asshole.
Yeah, and I just really appreciate that Kaitlyn immediately was like, no.
So quickly, she was like, stay back, and then, like, the two of them got into a bit of a, altercation, verbal altercation, and she was like, this is really upsetting me. Both of these men ignored her.
Mm-hmm. And so then Jonathan comes up and pulls Kaitlyn away, and Ian goes to talk to Tony. So Ian and Tony go inside and go up there, and Tony, keeps talking about how, this isn't him, and this is
why
too
do we
aggressive.
have to do this, blah, 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 blah. Which, honestly, fair point. Like, he's just being a sore loser, but honestly, the fact that 2 consecutive group dates were about fighting really sucks.
Yeah. And so eventually Kaitlyn goes in to talk to him, and they're sitting in like this balcony area, and Tony is sitting up on the railing, and Ian is sitting up on the railing. So Kaitlyn comes in, and she also sits up on the railing.
Neither of them ask Ian to leave, which I love.
Yeah, so Ian's still there, and both Ian and Kaitlyn are talking to him, trying to calm him down.
Ian was really cool about it. There was nothing about, like, well, your relationship with Kaitlyn shouldn't be blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
He was genuine. He and Kaitlyn both were so genuinely just trying to talk to Tony and be like, listen, dude, it's okay. It's, it's not worth being this upset about, blah, 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 blah. Mm-hmm. I would also like to say, though, really quick, just because this is a qualm that I personally have, at one point, Kaitlyn did say something about this was supposed to be an opportunity for us to laugh at ourselves. No, it was not. You put, what was it, six men, I think, into the position of, like, and don't get me wrong, as I said earlier, in regards to Joe's nuts, like, nudity's fine, nudity's great, but, like, also, it kind of sucks to tell these dudes, like, hey, get in this very vulnerable state, like this mode of dress, and then, you know, go up against these pros and all this bullshit in front of every other man in the house. And that's the thing. The second the men who are actually on this date walk out of the house in, like, their robes with their mawashis or amawashis underneath, everybody starts laughing so hard.
Yeah.
And, like, I understand the bit of it, but also, if I'm bearing myself that much and the first reaction is just a wave of laughter, that sucks shit.
Yeah. That's
not laughing with or laughing at yourself. That is being laughed at.
Mm-hmm. Like, some of them were able to take in a stride, and some of them were able to laugh at themselves.
Pretty much everybody eventually got into the bit.
Yeah.
To one extent or another.
But it's still weird. And so Kaitlyn, she apologizes to Tony. She apologizes for putting him in a situation he's not comfortable with. Tony never does apologize to her. So then she leaves him alone. She gives him a hug, which I thought was nice. And she goes on, and we find out that there's actually a second part to this date.
Yeah, this is when phase 2 comes into question.
Right, and there's a talking head where Kaitlyn is saying, you know, Tony can come or he cannot. You know, just whatever is comfortable with him. So, we didn't see Kaitlyn telling Tony about this second half of the date. So, I'm hoping a producer did. Or somebody.
Surely he knew eventually.
Yeah, when all the guys weren't there.
Yeah.
So, it turns out that this is an exhibition thing where they're in the middle of some place with a crowd around where they are going to sumo against each other.
Yeah, now it's no longer just a fighting is an important part of this date. It is a fighting each other is an important part of this date.
Right. And I was really hoping it wouldn't come to that.
But boy, oh boy, does it break bad quick.
Yeah, so first up is JJ and Joe, and it was very nice to see JJ get thrown out over.
Yup.
So Clint, he's the next one up, but it's like a single elimination thing. If you win, you keep playing.
No, I don't know if it's even that. They called it a round robin tournament because now it's 5 dudes. And so I don't know exactly how it works, but, like, it does seem to be, like, if you win one match, you fight the next one.
Yeah.
There is no, like, this matchup, these two proceed, whatever.
Mm-hmm. And, well, we see Clint play a few in a talking head where he was saying that he's going to play dirty.
Yeah, well, we see that before his first match with Joe, and here's the thing about Clint's style of sumo, he just picks people up and carries them out of the ring.
Which is not sumo.
It's not sumo. It really seems like it should be an illegal move.
Yeah, apparently Clint comes from a wrestling background. Like, he wrestled in college. So he's pulling that in when it's just, that's not how you sumo, Clint.
That's also not how you wrestle in, like, competitive wrestling, not the WWE style wrestling. It's not a lot of that. It's more about good grapples.
Yeah.
Not good pick up and carries.
Right. So after this, we get a shot of Tony at the house. And there was even a talking head where Kaitlyn was saying, you know, oh, well, Tony didn't show up, but it's, you know, I hope he's back at the mansion just zenning out. Getting his zen on, I think is what she said.
Yup.
And so we do get a shot of Tony where he starts going on this rant about just the way the game is set up.
Yeah. What sucks is, like, Tony says nothing inaccurate. It just sucks that ultimately his inspiration for all of this, because there is more to come, is that he was upset to lose and couldn't just say, it just sucks to lose. He had to. And even though he may have been airing, other legitimate grievances, he did it in a very bad way.
Yes.
And it just, it does not work out for him.
Yeah, and the whole time he's sitting on the balcony, like, feet over the railing, talking to Jonathan. That's where his whole rant comes in.
Well, but also he was like yelling down to somebody standing by the pool. I couldn't recognize the person. Was it Ian? I thought it was a white dude.
I thought it was Ian. It doesn't matter.
It doesn't really matter.
So then Tony decides that, it ain't for him.
Yeah.
And so he decides to leave. And before they transition from the competition part of the date to the dinner part of the date, Tony packs up and he catches Kaitlyn before he leaves. And pretty much says kind of what he had said before, that, this isn't for him. He wants to find love, but he's not going to find it in this place.
This circus.
Yeah, this circus. Yeah.
Which, I mean, yeah, dude.
It is.
Honestly, I do think it's a healthy choice of Tony. I do not think he arrived at that choice in a healthy way.
Right. And he says, if you want to continue a connection or whatever,
I am easily found. Which I liked.
Yeah. And so, Kaitlyn says sorry, gives him a hug, and he leaves.
Well, he says, it's not your fault.
Oh, yeah.
That's the closest he comes to anything apologetic, is the understanding of, you did not do this.
Right. So, one thing that was interesting was Clint decides at the dinner part of the date that he is not going to go talk to Kaitlyn. He is going to wait for Kaitlyn to come to him.
Playing it cool. Like an idiot.
Yeah. JJ and Clint seem to have formed a friendship here. JJ's like, hey, I don't know if that's a great idea, dude.
Well, what's weirder to me is in this moment they seemed almost testy with each other.
Yeah.
But boy, howdy, does that change real quick beyond this day.
Absolutely. So, Kaitlyn talks to somebody, and then she comes back and, like, sits next to Clint and kind of looks at him. It's like, so...
No, it's even worse. She sits down and sort of, to the group, like, looking straight forward, says, so... And then waits, and after a second or two, looks over at Clint, and he is looking away from her.
He is looking away from her. It's not even that he's not saying anything. He is actively ignoring her.
Although, if the editors made it look like that, when in fact he was, like, looking at her, just waiting. She said so expectantly, and he was looking at her expectantly. If they took that away from us, they made a very poor choice.
Yeah. But Sean is the one who picks her and is like, hey, let's go talk. And they have a nice conversation. I can't remember what it was, but she starts talking about how, talking to him and kissing him just, like, really affirms that she feels something, like, for Sean that it just seems very natural. And for me, it seems like Sean is a front runner here.
He very well could be on his way to getting a perfect match at it.
Yeah.
Is my thinking on it. But really, as we said before, nobody's really getting an edit yet.
Not yet. And we haven't even seen much of Sean at all.
At all. I couldn't have told you who he fucking was. Is he Sean Sint or Sean Hot Tub?
Sean Sint.
Sean Sint. There we go.
Sean Hot Tub went home first night.
Yes, he did.
And
had to drive his hot tub car alone.
Oh, man. Do you think it was still filled up with water?
No, because he got out of it, unless it has an auto refill feature. Where, like, he closes the door and is like, oh, okay, cool. And starts pumping water in again.
So, but I think that every time that we've seen a conversation with Sean and Kaitlyn, it is a very much, Kaitlyn is like, I have a very strong connection with Sean and I really like him.
Yeah. Even though we haven't seen a ton of him.
Right.
What we have seen seems pretty good.
Mm-hmm. So pretty sure Sean gets the rose from this date. I didn't make a note of it.
No,
I forgot,
yeah, he does. She, like, after they kiss a little bit, and then she says, like, you know, hold on just a minute, whatever. Goes and gets the date rose, brings it back to him.
Yeah. So the next date is a one-on-one date, and usually the date cards are given in a, Kaitlyn is asking this thing from you.
Let's go soar to new heights.
Yeah.
And they climb to the top of the, you know, Eiffel Tower or some bullshit on a location date.
Yeah. But in this instance, both Kaitlyn and Ben Z get a card from Chris Harrison where the note is something along the lines of, you know, expect anything.
Yeah.
Expect anything to happen or something like that. So Kaitlyn and Ben go to this, like, abandoned warehouse. There's a bunch of junk outside. There's a weird, like, training dummy.
Yeah, I was gonna say, there's, like, one of those dummies where you can practice all your specific attacks and know exactly where they're landing, like, and face. Shit. Yeah, the full-on face. So, the limbless torso and face and head.
Yeah, it turns out that this is a very intense escape room.
Wicked intense.
Y'all, I would not be able to do it. It's very scary.
It's clearly horror movie based, but then the producers were like, well, we can make this worse. And so they brought in, like, apparently Kaitlyn is wicked afraid of birds, so they put 2 birds in the room for no reason whatsoever. It's called The Basement. If you have 2 pigeons in your basement, you have fucked up royally.
Yeah, which, the thing is about these birds, there's a note that comes up on the screen that's like, the animals and insects are not usually a part of this experience.
Which really tipped us off some bullshit coming. And so we had, like, there were maggots in one thing, there were a bunch of dead cockroaches in one thing, and then there was a, like, clue in the bathroom in a toilet that appeared to be filled with puke, and there were a bunch of big snakes in there.
There were snakes.
Big snakes.
Yeah. One more thing I want to say about the birds, where Kaitlyn was terrified, like petrified. She would not go in the room. Like, she cried a little bit. It
was as bad. It was even worse than my sister at the little walk-through zoo in the Animal Kingdom at Disney World, because she was so sketched out by the bird room, which, by the way, I didn't realize this at the time, but I had defo seen there was a way to walk around the bird room, and I did not alert my family to that. She was so scared by a bird flying overhead, like 15 feet above her, that she ducked down behind our mom and, like, grabbed onto my mom's backpack and was ducking behind her for cover. And I defo, like, my dad and I were walking a little bit behind them, and I was like, Molly, you need to take your ears off. They think you're a mouse. And she ripped those motherfuckers off. She ripped those Mickey ears off right fucking quick.
Oh, man.
Sorry, Molly. Get your own blast. Welcome to Blast.
Did you just dox your sister?
Welcome to the Blast. That's you, Molly. You, Molly Churchwell. I won't say your middle name. You're welcome. Welcome to the Blast.
Goodness. So one of the clues in this room, they eventually go in, and there's, like, it is called a live escape room.
Yes, and I believe that is because there's a dude laying in a bed under a sheet, and he acts a little creepy, and then just goes away.
Yeah, he, like, crawls off the bed, and I think he's still in the room, but
I
he's just, like,
he's
crawling
under the
around.
Bed. No, I assume he's just under the bed for the illusion of him having disappeared.
Yeah. One of the clues they find is a picture of Britt.
A torn picture of half of Britt's face.
Yeah, it didn't seem to mean anything. It was very weird.
That was the one that was under a bunch of dead cockroaches, and man, that sucks.
Yeah.
Man, that sucks. Yeah. That was very disrespectful.
Mm-hmm. So, they do finally escape this room, but I noticed at one point it was like 5 minutes until this room is filled with gas, and they haven't, like, come close yet. I guess they've come close, but they're not about to solve
They seemed to be a good bit away.
Yeah, and then it was later, they find the different things, finally, and it's like 1 minute until this room is filled with gas. And they have to, like, go find this black light, come back, shining at these cards with letters written on them.
There was like
invisible
UV ink. And
yeah.
Here's what pisses me off: the password for they had to like put in a password in the computer, and then it would give them a password to open the door. The password was fucking roses.
Yeah.
And what pissed me off is that they were reading off the letters, and it was like ERSO. S, like reading and I think it was Kaitlyn was like crosses. What the fuck? How was your first guess not Rose?
Yeah, you're on The Bachelor, which makes me think how much influence did the producers have over this escape room?
At least a fair amount.
Yeah, because I mean, every escape room I've done, if you get stuck, they'll give you hints. And so I wonder if there were any hints given, because they seemed very bad at escape rooms.
Quite bad.
Like, what is the original... Like, that was definitely not the original password to this thing.
Oh, for sure.
And I don't know. They escaped in the nick of time. Like, they were walking out of the door as it counted down from 5.
No, not even that. They got the door open as the fog machine that was the gas kicked on and was pumping through the vent.
Which I do not believe that. I do not believe. There was some time manipulation going on.
Most likely, but I also... I would not be surprised if it really did take them that long to get out of there, for sure.
I'd be...
Do you think it took them longer?
I would think it took them longer.
Huh. It is possible.
Because that 1 minute, I don't think they could have done all that in 1 minute. Like, I definitely think that there was some
There had to be some funny business.
Some funny business. I don't even know. Maybe they didn't have that 5 minutes, 1 minute, whatever, at that time. It could have been added later.
Non-diegetic.
Yeah. So then we get another teaser where Clint might be in love with JJ.
Yeah, there's some weird relationship development going on there.
In this teaser, it seems very much of a bromance.
We'll get more on that later, though. Yep.
So, Benzie and Kaitlyn talk a little bit. It's a nice conversation. At one point in this date, Kaitlyn calls Benzie a babe soda.
Babe soda.
What is a babe soda?
What did you mean to say, Kaitlyn Bristowe? Because surely it was not that you intended to say.
If you heard, hey, I'm going to get a babe soda, would you think that it's a soda for babies? Or I drink this soda and I become a babe?
I think it is a soda exclusively made for bebs. I think only bebs can drink that soda. If you're not a beb and you drink that soda, it turns to ash in your mouth.
It's like the Emperor's New Clothes. It's just a bad soda, but like if
you're a beb, it's great.
Yeah, and so everyone thinks they're not a beb.
Everybody thinks the soda's bad, and then there's like one person, fucking Clint, is like, no, I think it tastes great. Am I the only beb in the room?
For sure. So then we get some Clint and JJ in the show. And they don't say it outright yet. They do, I think, a little bit later. But they showered together.
They seem to have showered together.
Yeah, a lot of people keep talking about their relationship. They seem very into each other.
Yeah. I'm going to say very few words, and this is ultimately non-specific, but this will be enough for you to understand. Is this the moment where JJ's zits are brought into question?
Yes.
Oh, okay, cool. JJ mentions, I normally don't have too many zits on my back, but you popped some in the shower last night.
Yeah.
What the fuck? What kind of relationship do you have to have with someone where you're like, oh, you have a zit on your back, let me grab that for you?
Yeah, and these two guys have known each other for like a week at most.
I could be married to a person even if I had been married to someone long enough that it was I can't sleep without the sound of my wife snoring situation, I would still not pop zits that were on their back.
I don't know, it's weird, and we will definitely talk some more about that later.
Oh, so much more.
So then the next group date comes up. And it is... So these guys have to go to an elementary school classroom and teach different topics of sex ed.
And that sucks. That is
Yep.
heinous. That is wild.
Yeah, the kids that are brought in are like 5th graders at most.
Yeah, I was going to say, I would guess younger than that.
Yeah.
They looked like probably 4th grade to me. Which I understand that's only a year, but that is a huge difference.
It's still huge. Like, they're 8 and 9. So, they teach sex ed. Of course, haha, funny. Joshua, the good old boy, gets female puberty, and he has to teach how to put a tampon in.
Which he absolutely does not know and did not actually ask Kaitlyn. Because
No.
all the men had a chance to talk to Kaitlyn.
Yeah, they got a chance to go over their lesson plans, and they did not.
It was very brief, I grant you. But, like, Joshua was holding a tampon. Called it a tampon.
Yeah,
And made a joke about tampons.
Yeah, and he says he says ripcord, and he pulled it out. It was very bad, very wrong. So these kids start asking questions, and they're being told things that are way too inappropriate. And we were like, dear Lord. And Max, you even said, I hope that these are actors.
Yes, I did.
And thank God Kaitlyn says that, you know, she's pranking them because these are child actors.
Here's why I think that's bullshit. She says, I'm pranking them. At no point does she say to the men, yeah, so those were child actors.
Yeah, or we're not shown that.
Surely we would have been shown that for the men's reaction. That's my thing. Is why would we not get the men's reaction to that?
Yeah, it's just...
Even as a post-credit scene.
Right.
Like, something.
Yeah. It's just wild. Like, I am very glad that they were child actors.
I am relieved that they were child actors, because these men largely would have done a shit-ass job, did do a shit-ass job of answering some of these questions.
Yeah, and there were so many bleeps.
So many bleeps. Now, some of them were stuff like, the word clit or clitoris was definitely bleeped. The word penis was bleeped. The word ejaculation, I believe, was bleeped. So even, like, some scientific terms were bleeped. But you know what, I will go ahead and say that could have been some editor shit. Like, there were times we, at least once, whether this was the cause of our pausing it or not, we had paused the show and discussed, now what word was it that they just bleeped?
Ben H does a great job.
Amazing job. He had reproduction.
And he did a great job of teaching it in a way that was, you know, very appropriate for that age range. Because he, you know, it was very scientific, and he used visuals, and he also, what made it great and was the reason they spent so much time on Ben Higgins was he connected it to the Bachelor process.
He made his whole shit about, like, he was like, I want to tell a story that was just talking about, you know, like, well, two people, your mommy and daddy, they fell in love, and there was an emotional connection and physical attraction, blah, 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 blah. And he made a joke about my favorite way to develop an attraction with, or develop a connection with a woman is to get out of a limo and awkwardly walk over to a woman I don't know, and then go on dates with her, with you guys, like, stuff like that. It was a good bit, but his was both correct, informationally effective, and also date appropriate.
Yes. And they played this music while he was going, where it was just very, like, it was like a piano. It was nice. It was like, wow, this is great.
It was clear he was being made out to be the front runner.
Absolutely. And there was even a time later on in the episode where Kaitlyn says Jared did a very good job of talking to the kids and all that stuff.
Yeah.
We are shown none of his presentation.
I could not even tell you what his topic was.
Yeah, like, it just, they showed us the funny ones, and then they showed us the one that was like, see, this is like the Bachelor process of where all the sperm finds the one egg. Then we get some more Clint and JJ. And this is where it becomes very apparent.
It becomes homoerotically charged.
I would say it was pretty explicit, it seemed. Clint starts talking about how he has made a connection with JJ. He really likes JJ. He talks about how he's not interested in Kaitlyn anymore. He is interested in JJ. And he talks about the Bachelor process.
Well, now hold on. He says stuff about, like, having more of a connection and being more interested in, like, while he does certainly say some things that make it seem like he'd much rather date JJ than Kaitlyn, I don't think he outright says... Does he say he's more interested? It's that word specifically, interested.
I don't know if he uses specifically interested, but he wants to continue his relationship with JJ and does not want to with Kaitlyn. And the thing
just doesn't care about continuing it with Kaitlyn.
Yeah.
That's the issue.
Yeah, and says, starts talking about the Bachelor process, about, you come here to find someone to fall in love with, and he says, I'm a success story. So he has, by this, fallen in love with JJ. Which, man, I wish Clint didn't suck so much.
Yeah, I would love it if either of these men wasn't an asshole.
Yeah.
But they are both, unfortunately, assholes.
Mm-hmm. So Ben gets the date rose from that. Then we get into the cocktail party. So we get, in this cocktail party, we get a lot more of Clint and JJ. And Clint says that he says again that he was not interested in Kaitlyn, but he has to get a rose so that he can stay because he likes JJ so much. He wants to keep hanging out with JJ.
Yeah.
And there's like a part where he's talking to JJ and he says, like, it's funny how good of a jawline you have and how beautiful your eyes are.
How cute you are and how beautiful your jawline is.
That's what it is, yeah. It's like, whoa, dude.
Yeah.
And then JJ says something like, oh, dude, I was about to say some derogatory comment about unzipping my pants.
Yeah.
It's like, what is happening here?
What is happening here?
What is happening? It's wild. It is wild, y'all. And Clint makes some reference to his power socks.
Power socks.
Like, what is that? So, Kaitlyn and Clint have this conversation where he does a very good job of trying to keep that rose from Kaitlyn. They have a nice conversation, and then JJ starts talking and equates the other guys to lemmings because he's chasing them. They're gonna run off the cliff because I'm chasing them.
That's not how lemmings work, if anybody was wondering.
So then Kaitlyn talks to Joshua, and we'd seen at least one other guy saying there's some bad apples in the house without saying names. And then Joshua says Clint and JJ are causing problems in the house. And then Kaitlyn, for some reason, completely glosses over JJ and starts focusing on Clint.
Well, but what makes it worse, Kaitlyn, to Joshua specifically said, you are not the first person to mention those names.
Yeah.
And so she knew there was an issue with both of them, but for some reason she becomes hyper-focused on Clint specifically.
Yes. And I just thought it was interesting. Like, she said to him, like, tell me specifics. What else is there? Trust me that you will not see him again. You can tell me anything. So Kaitlyn is ready to kick this guy out of the house.
Yup.
Which I appreciate.
Yup.
She's not sitting around waiting. She is taking charge and taking action. And so the episode ends with her going in to grab Clint and being like, hey, buddy, let's talk. And they
she was like, maybe we should go talk for a minute. Or something like that. It was very clear, the vibe of what this conversation was going to be like.
Yeah, which is one reason why I love Kaitlyn.
Yeah.
Because she is upfront with what she's about to do.
Straight to the point, no faking, cooking pieces of shit like a pound of bacon.
Yes, that. And so it ends with Kaitlyn and Clint sitting down to talk. So we get a teaser of Clint coming and talking to the other guys in the house and says something. And then we see him and JJ getting into it.
Seemingly about to get into a fight. Like, he comes in and says something about, who told Kaitlyn I've been being mean to them?
Oh, yeah.
And then we see him and JJ, like, right up in each other's space, but not in a homoerotic way this time. Which, by the way, if they please be even slightly better people and then go have a relationship with each other. I would love for an LGBTQ plus relationship to be formed by contestants on The Bachelor or Bachelorette.
That would be wonderful.
I would love it if it was not the two pieces of shit in the house.
Yeah, they're just the worst. The thing is, though, I feel like JJ is going to be... If Clint comes out and tells JJ, you know, his feelings about him, I feel like JJ is just going to be so awful about it.
It seems like a bit for JJ.
Yeah.
Which I get, but, like, if they're showering together, like, as friends, assuming it's not a, like, fucking 8th grade gym style shower from every sitcom ever, assuming that's not the situation in the Bachelorette mansion in this case, like, if you're gonna shower together as friends, that's great, but, like, at the same time, it has to be established whether or not that is a shower between friends.
Yeah.
That's very important.
Because they mentioned the shower multiple times. Goodness. So something else that happens in the teaser is, I mean, we get more mention of Nick Viall, who will show up later. Yeah.
Well, it almost makes it seem like in the next episode, we get some dude's reactions to, like, you know, it seems shitty that, you know, we've put our lives on hold to come here, and now she's throwing this new dude into the shuffle or whatever the fuck. Which it is pretty shitty.
Yeah.
It's rather quite shitty.
Absolutely. Especially if it's someone that she's had a relationship with in the past.
Yeah. Like, dog, you are in or out. There is none of this, well, why don't you come be a part of this competition? Bullshit.
Yeah, it's... I get... We're just going to have to see. I know that it's going to be bad, but I'm just interested in seeing how it comes about.
It's not a question of if bad, it's a question of how bad.
How bad, yes. So then we get an after, or a during credits scene, where we just get more of Joe's balls.
It's a very funny moment, though.
It is. Like...
Well... Plenty of people pointed out, you know, like, during the date, like, that we saw in the episode something about, like, wow, you know, JJ's whole business is out, or whatever. But in this one, it's like the other men are kind of making jokes about it to him, not, like, commenting on it as he's doing whatever. They're just, like, to him saying something about it.
Yeah, the other guys, and Kaitlyn.
And Kaitlyn, too. They're all making jokes about it. Joe does nothing about it, which, again, are you really going to barehanded readjust your bits before you go lay hands on someone? But what I love is that, so what happened first is one of them was saying something just about it being out, and Joe doing nothing about it. And Joe, like, he's like, well, I can't see down far enough to tell. And he, like, bends over super far, and he's like, oh, yeah, it is. Wow.
And then
does nothing about it. And then one of them says, it's getting tan right now, I can tell.
No, it's getting sunburned.
Sunburn right now, I can tell. And Ben H, comes over and he goes, oh, here, with a can of sunspray. And Joe tries to say something about, no. And from far enough away that it is just a bit, Ben starts spraying a lot of sunscreen.
A lot of sunscreen.
Very good.
Very good. All right.
Damn, there's a full episode of Kaitlyn Bristowe's season of The Bachelorette.
I'm so ready for this next one.
If I'm not incorrect, this was episode 4 of this season. Okay.
Yeah, episode 3 of our podcast season.
Yes.
Episode 4 of the season.
Yes. Okay. Wow. So if you have access to Kaitlyn Bristowe's season through whatever means, I won't question them. Listen, you wouldn't download a car. But if you did download some Bachelorette, that's between you and your God. You know? So, keep up if you can, because it's wild. If not, we will be here to let you know what happened and how much of it was phony baloney bullshit. Though so far, there seems to be a lot of baloney, but none of it phony. That's what sucks.
Just very genuine baloney.
Genuine, real baloney. 100% grade A baloney. But damn, there's, another episode in the bag.
Yeah.
As I've said before, give us, if you're listening on YouTube, like this video, all the videos, and as I've said before, smash that motherfucking subscribe button. If you're listening on iTunes, give us a review. I don't know where all else you can listen to this because our podcast host just sort of does its own shit everywhere.
Find us somewhere.
Find us anywhere and share our anywhere documents, our anywhere content with your friends. I've said this before too, like let us know what you're thinking, be it through a review or just a comment on YouTube. Don't be mean, but if you are, that's also between you and your God. Kinsey, did you have anything else you wanted to say before we wrapped up?
No.
I was going to say another no. We're 3 for 3 on the times I verbatim asked. Do you have anything else you want to say before we wrapped up? Then yeah, shit. I guess that's got everything said and done. So, with all that out of the way, I am your author, Max Churchwell.
And I'm your analyzer, Kinsey Brinton.
And join us next time for the most dramatic episode in Will You Accept This Prose history.
My only prayer is that someday you'll care. My hopes, my dreams come true. My one and only you. No one